Hello there. My name is Lindsay Nicolay. I'm with the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission of the Southern Baptist Convention. Thank you so much for allowing us this time on the Cooperative Program stage. I'm here with our president, Brent Leatherwood, and our vice president and chief of staff, Miles Mullen, and we want to talk to you a little bit about why we are such big fans of the Cooperative Program here at the ERLC. So, Brent, I'll start with you. So a lot of people might know that the ERLC exists, but don't quite understand who we are, what it is that we do. So can you explain the work that we do, who we are, and how the Cooperative Program allows us to do that work and engage in the ministry we're engaged in?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a dual mandate that's been given to our entity from our churches, and it has both an external facing aspect to it and an internal one. The external one brings us into the public square, has us talking to elected officials and policymakers about the things that are important to our churches, to messengers that come each and every year to the annual meeting. And the internal aspect of our dual mandate sees us coming alongside and serving our churches and providing resources about the complex and tough cultural issues of the day, and helps pastors think through those issues and how to talk through those things with their congregations. And look, you said we are fans of the Cooperative Program. I would say we are actually cheerleaders for the Cooperative Program. On average, each year, 95% of our funding comes directly from our churches through the Cooperative Program. This last year was actually even more, it's 96.3%. So you will find no other of our national entities that is more thankful and grateful for the sacrificial giving that comes from our churches. And we sing the praises of the CP wherever we go. And even in behind closed doors meetings with other partners out there, we continually talk about we are funded through our churches. And so we have a responsibility and a privilege to make sure that we are constantly speaking on behalf of our churches. And thankfully, meetings like this at the annual meeting, they help inform our work, and we are so thankful for events like this where we get together.
And there's no other program like it that allows ministry to reach farther and farther than we could just do on our own. So yes, we are cheerleaders. Thank you for that correction. And Miles, I want to talk to you about, we recently focused in on our tagline at the ERLC, bringing hope to the public square. Why does that matter, and how does it set us apart in the public square as an entity?
That's a great question, Lindsay. And really, I would say that bringing hope to the public square is more than just a tagline. It's really a vision for how we want to do the work of the ERLC and who we want to be as we go into the public square. And I want to say just a couple things about the idea of bringing hope, and then one about what it means to be in the public square. The first thing about bringing hope is that as believers, we know Jesus Christ, and he is the hope of the world. And we bring him with us wherever we go, and for us, that means going into the public square. We believe that only through a personal relationship with Jesus Christ can men and women and boys and girls be saved from their sins and have the hope of eternal life and have a flourishing life on this earth. And so wherever we go, that goes with us. It's grounded in the Great Commission. And as we talk to people on Capitol Hill or in our neighborhoods or wherever, engaging with our neighbors, we bring that gospel message with us. I've had the privilege of sitting with Brent as he's talked about the gospel with reporters, national reporters, congressional representatives. I personally have had the opportunity, as I've traveled for the ERLC, to talk to people about the gospel on planes. So we are bringing that hope with us. The second aspect of that, though, is that we are a hopeful people, and we have a convictional optimism about what we can accomplish as we engage in the public square. We believe there's more good work to be done. We believe that the principles that our nation was founded on still provide a good guide and a good blueprint for engaging in civic life. And we believe that as we differentiate ourselves from maybe some others who are fearful or the sky is falling or that kind of approach, that is a distinguishing mark of us. I just want to say that represents what the Baptist Faith and Message talks about in Article 15 when it says working with people of goodwill for good causes. We have a convictional optimism that even unbelievers in the public square can see good work that can be done, and we can accomplish, we can work with them on certain things. That means, for instance, that if there's a good policy or a good policy or a good proposal from someone that we disagree with on 95% of everything else, but they want to do something to help protect kids from online porn, we can work with them, and we can have a hope, optimism that there's good work to be accomplished.
Well, and just to underscore that, right? I mean, I'm sure many of the people that we're starting to see here in the exhibition hall, they're coming from the Send Luncheon. And I think when we talk about the public square, we know that we read in Scripture that as Christ followers, we have a responsibility to bring the gospel to the uttermost ends of the earth. And so we probably, as good Southern Baptists, we think through efforts like church planting, like Send just celebrated, or we think through the commissioning of missionaries like IMB will do. I would submit to our fellow Baptists here that the public square is also included in that uttermost ends of the earth. And there are so many people that interact in the public square. It's actually not just policymakers, but it's also your neighbor right next door, or maybe your neighbor that you don't even know. And so making sure that all that you do in the public square is informed by the gospel. And that's what we seek to do. And so it's, of course, making sure that good policy is pushed forward. Good policy that protects children, like you said, protects vulnerable individuals, defends religious liberty, protects the sanctity of marriage. We absolutely do all those things. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we are hopeful ambassadors of the gospel.
And Lindsay, if I could say one more thing about the public square, we've really adopted this, under Brent's leadership, this idea of the expansive public square. So the public square is not just, as Brent indicated, it's not just politics, it's not just policymakers, but it's anywhere we have an opportunity to engage with our neighbors or engage with other citizens to work together for the common good, for human flourishing. So that could be an HOA or a FFA, or it could be an HOA. Actually, some of them do good work. It could be FFA, or it could be a baseball league, or those kind of things. It's anywhere. And I think it's helpful for us, and this is something that we've been trying to encourage people to think through at the ERLC since Brent's been the president, is that the national gets so much attention, but so often it's local and state and the things that are closest to people that really make a difference in their day-to-day, week-to-week lives. And that doesn't get as much attention, but that is really the kind of public square that believers can have an immediate impact on. And that has a particular Baptist flavor to it because we are all about the local church engaging the local community.
Which is a great segue to the next question for Brent. Thank you, Miles. You probably set
got
that
it,
up,
Lindsay.
so I
Yes.
took advantage of that softball. But so our work, it's public facing, and it puts us at front and center of so many of the most controversial issues of our day. And yet, at the same time, we're doing things under the radar and on behalf of and in partnership with Southern Baptists that don't make the news. A lot of this local work. So, Brent, explain what that is. Explain how we do partnerships with Southern Baptists and state conventions and Baptist state conventions, and how we advocate in that way. That doesn't necessarily make the news.
Well, apparently we need to launch a new initiative that focuses on HOAs because
That probably
there's a
needs
lot
a
of
gospel
institutions
focus,
that need the hope of the gospel. HOAs,
definitely.
Look, it's not just solely local work. It's also national work that just doesn't get picked up because it is behind the scenes. And look, I would say that the number one thing that we do as we are engaging in these conversations, right, whether it's a U.S. senator, whether it's a staff member for a governor, whether it is talking through with a state legislator, some issue that's at the state level, or even walking alongside a pastor who is talking with a local county commissioner. We don't want to feed into the narrative of the day, which is division and strife and the catastrophizing language that is just so prevalent in our culture right now. That's why we think the antidote to all that is actually telling people about the gospel and conducting ourselves as hopeful messengers of the gospel. And so that's what we are really focused on. But those national Those national conversations, I think they do get a lot of coverage, but with state level and local level, we're working through partnerships with our state conventions. I think one of the really good aspects of the Dobbs decision, for example, has been people realizing that the issue of protecting life, it's now being decided more and more at the state level. And guess what? The SBC is perfectly positioned for that because of our state conventions that are already thinking through this issue. They're already active on the local level. And so, of course, we want to come alongside our state execs and their teams to be a hopeful voice for that, so that we can push forward initiatives that protect lives and serve mothers and support families. So that's one of the ways that it plays out.
What can Southern Baptists expect in the immediate future from the ERLC because of the generous support of the cooperative program?
Sure. Well, like I said, in nearly every conversation that we have, whether it's internally within the SBC or partners out of it, we are champions for the cooperative program. And so that is going to continue. This hopeful vision for engaging in the public square, I think, is resonating with people because they can go a lot of other places and get despair and get division. But for us, we see the unity that we read about in Ephesians 2 and Ephesians 4 underlining our work. Because when we are together as Baptists, that sends such an important signal to the rest of the world about things that are important in our churches and our congregations. On the issues of policy, we're going to continue with providing resources for policymakers like federal agendas. We recently have now started creating state agendas. This past year was the first time that we've ever done that because, again, more and more of these decisions are happening, consequential decisions are happening at the state and the local level. And we think messengers in our churches expect us to be alongside state conventions and speaking into those issues as well. And we're going to provide more and more resources that help pastors. So this past year, we came out with a new gender and sexuality guide because the number one thing that we came out of New Orleans with the survey that we did with all the messengers there, was pastors telling us that we need help on sexuality issues. And so we provided a great new resource in that, and you can get it at our booth. It's located just over here. The second most important issue was the election year. So this year we came out with a political theology guide to help individuals work through decisions before they go to the ballot box, because we want our fellow Baptists and Christians to be thinking through these issues and be informed about them before they go engage them. And that's ultimately how you start pushing the ball forward for helpful policies that will help us all flourish. What else am I missing, Miles?
Just to add to that, our last two issues of Light Magazine have focused on the same issues that messengers in New Orleans told us on gender ideology, the challenge of gender ideology, and how to engage in the political square with hope. And then our podcast as well. Two of the last three series in our podcast have dwelt on that. So I'd encourage everybody to go out and pick up a copy of Light Magazine, pick up 10 copies of Light Magazine, give them out, and listen to our podcast, send it to your friends. We're trying to serve the churches well and listening to them.
And so I would say the takeaway from that is when our churches, when our messengers come to the annual meeting, when they speak, that helps inform what we do. And we go take the actions, the resolutions, things that are passed here, and we go put them into action in the public policy arena. And that's so important. That's a great example of the cooperative relationship that drives forward this entity.
Yes, and so on behalf of the gospel, we often talk about viewing ourselves as missionaries to the public square. And we're doing that by bringing the hope of the gospel to the public square, because Peter explicitly tells us to be ready to give a reason for the hope that we have, but to do it with gentleness and respect. And that's our aim. Of all the resources, all the things that we do. And so we would invite you. We just put out a new website. We refreshed it, updated it. We have lots of free resources there for you. There's ways that you can contact us. That's erlc.com. And we welcome your feedback and we welcome your questions. So please feel free to email us at info@erlc.com, or again, visit our website, erlc.com. We are here to serve you. We're so thankful for your generous support of us, and we're thankful to be in partnership with you for the sake of the gospel. Thank you, Brent and Miles, for
Thank you,
joining
Lindsay.
us.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a great day.